At the end of 2020, we will be saying goodbye to Flash as a web platform for multimedia content. After over 2 decades of prominence being used across the internet for animation, games, graphic design, interactive media, and more, it is being phased out in favor of more secure and more stable alternatives. With the general question being, can we still play Flash games after 2020? I want to provide the immediate answer, yes. Maybe not by the same means or with the same level of convenience as you can now, but there will be options. I'm going to give a brief history of Flash, how its demise came to be in 2020, and all of the available methods for preservation that will allow you to continue to enjoy all your favorites in the years to come. How's it going, guys? My name's Graham and welcome to Two Left Thumbs. This is Flashlight, the series where I talk about all things Flash related, a series that I can promise will also not be disappearing alongside Flash. Rather, it may be more valuable than ever to continue documenting and sharing the incredible history of Flash creations and creators. Ever since Adobe's announcement in July 2017 that they were officially sunsetting support and distribution for their Flash player by the end of 2020, millions of users and fans have been concerned as to what will become of their favorite animations, games, and potentially entire websites. And more than that, what will become of the decades worth of legacy content distributed through a service that will no longer be supported. There's a fear that all that history would simply be gone. So just like that, December 31st, 2020, poof, 20 years of games and creations gone, all your favorite Flash gaming websites simply husks? No, luckily not. Our saviors of Flash content, old and new, come in 3 specific forms: conversion, emulation, and collection. Some of this had begun well before the twilight began to set in 2017, but others were made in a direct response to outrun Flash's setting sun. Conversion involves taking the files, code, and artifacts of Flash and moving it to a new system or format that modern browsers will still support, or potentially something outside the browser. Emulation would be a system that circumvents the loss of Flash Player and allows all these files to still be played and used as is with an in-browser replacement technology. While collection as a preservation effort is a scramble to back everything up and safeguard it in ways that is disconnected from browsers and not at risk of deletion. Each one has their specific pros, cons, and nuances. I'll do my best to explain each, including the best efforts each of those avenues has to showcase in ensuring our beloved Flash projects are here to stay. While there will absolutely be a rocky road ahead, you have your answer up top, you'll still be able to play those games. And with only 3 months left in official support for Flash, now is the ideal time for you to play a small part in protecting any specific favorites of yours. Together, we can guarantee thousands of Flash-based games and animations will remain available to enjoy for what could potentially be many generations to come. Flash has served us well for a long time, and while I wish phasing it out wasn't so potentially destructive to these historic contributions to the internet, it'll all be for the best in the long term. Here's my super quick history of Flash as an online multimedia player. Flash as a development software has been available since 1996, first meant to allow for showy vector art web graphics and animations. You're no longer limited to cartoony, pixelated, distorted, compressed little GIFs. With the introduction of its own programming language, ActionScript, in 2000, developers could suddenly create dynamic and interactive content, allowing for combinations of audio and visual alongside mouse and keyboard inputs that all could work directly within your browser. Prior to this, any sort of interactive content would have been limited to physical copies or anything that you had to download and install on your hard drive. The beauty of Flash was the accessibility of being able to play games and use applications directly within a browser, after only a short loading time. Well, some were shorter than others. And with computers at one time being wildly limited by storage space, something temporary like this was also ideal. It also helps that no one had phones in their pockets to play mobile games. If you had 5 or 10 minutes to kill, Flash games were your option. I highly recommend Jonas Reichner's FlashGameHistory.com interactive webpage as a way of learning broadly about Flash game history, as well as many of the specific heavy hitters and breakouts that really set the bar for Flash creation. I'll have a link to that in the description for you to watch after this video. You know, ideally, from my perspective. So when the conversation refers to Flash being phased out or dying, it's talking about the Flash player, not the creation software. There are ways to export those creations that they can still be utilized in other ways. As this aging platform became less reliable and less secure compared to its cohorts, the decision was made to phase it out in favor of HTML5, Unity, and others. Flash always struggled to work on mobile devices, being dropped entirely from Android 4.1 onward, while Apple has never supported it. With its growing obsolescence, it made sense to pull the plug rather than dragging it out. With that understanding in place, let's look at the 3 different preservation methods in greater detail. I'll begin with conversion, which is the most straightforward and most effective solution in the sense that it guarantees a working project. Just crack open those old source files and update your project. What's the holdup, lazy bones? Yeah, it's straightforward, but en masse, it's never going to happen. That's asking an incredible amount of work from every one of those original developers, with little chance of being properly compensated for those efforts. And that's assuming that they still have those source files, or have any interest in coming back to them. It puts this insane burden on nearly every individual Flash developer past and present, which is well beyond a reasonable thing to hope for. But conversion is how the majority of Flash animations will be saved. Maybe you've seen Egoraptor's 2008 mini animation about his awesome series on YouTube, maybe without the context or knowing the significance of why that upload exists. It's obviously not true anymore. The animation is grainy, compressed, and notably rougher than any of his other awesome series videos you might see on Newgrounds, or at this point, also on YouTube. At the time, there were no reliable ways to convert Flash animations from their SWF format, SWF, to video. Animators hated sacrificing quality for YouTube and refused to upload conversions of their work there. Not when Newgrounds could instead host the SWFs in all their vector glory. Most creators did their best to suppress others sharing their hard work on YouTube.
You won't find them on YouTube. They were meant to be seen on Newgrounds.com. Click that link on the right to go watch them how they were meant to be seen.
Then in 2013, Newgrounds launched their free and open source software, Swivel. One of the most user-friendly, reliable, and effective pieces of software I've ever used. Swivel works like a dream and creates near-flawless video versions of Flash animations. Slowly for the last 7 years, in addition to allowing new animations to be uploaded in either format, Newgrounds has been converting the archive of their most popular animations into a video format, something that would never be at risk of losing browser support. And while I don't mean to knock YouTube animators, there is some sort of sad irony that the piece of software that allows them to exist at all comes free from a struggling website that otherwise would have been their only reliable option for sharing that very same content had they not freely supplied Swivel. Over the years, as YouTube has been increasingly unreliable and frustrating, many of them now upload to Newgrounds and YouTube again, which is great. Newgrounds' contribution there is something worth keeping in mind, and a great argument for why users of Newgrounds or fans of animation should consider joining their supporter program, which is essentially their in-house Patreon. You know, without having to give a cut of those contributions to Patreon. As what is likely the single most important repository of Flash creations, animations, games, and more, Newgrounds is absolutely worthy of a few dollars support. There's something very quick that I want to add in. This is actually a piece of news that came out while I was working on this video just a few days ago. Newgrounds has unveiled a brand new video player. It looks fantastic, loads quickly, defaults to a larger size, supports higher max resolutions than it used to, now up to 4K. It comes with the option to pin it to the top of the page, and is the only player I know that allows for frame-by-frame scrubbing, which could be useful for anyone, but it's a dream addition for animators trying to study and learn from their peers. So that's super cool. It's a great step in the direction of animation preservation, and something that I hope overcomes what may have been a barrier to some users. Conversion of animations is easy. Anyone can do it, and it's a long-running initiative that has ensured the best animations won't be going anywhere. Even if it does mean losing out on a few things like interactive menus or bonus features with those Flash originals, that's a small price to pay for a guaranteed longevity. Conversion of games is a whole other obstacle. There is no convenient way to simply import a SWF and have it be output with an entirely separate from Flash framework. That sort of one-to-one is incredibly hard to achieve. There are too many nuances in each programmer's individual style that just would never translate. There's too many different ways you could code one single thing. You can't build a program that can translate infinite permutations of that. And in case you hadn't heard, Flash games don't really make money these days. Revisiting an old game and investing that time directly isn't going to turn into direct profits. I did come across the web gaming platform Pokey, who have paired with Nitrome to attempt this very process through their service AwayFL. They're also planning a rev share system to support devs that use their service, which is pretty cool. Flash game monetization is a topic I absolutely plan to cover in the future. I was planning to do it before this video, but due to some scheduling difficulties, I had to prioritize this video. I felt 3 months out from Flash disappearing was the ideal time to put something like this together. While I'm curious how this game conversion option emerges and takes shape in the future, it doesn't appear that it will ever be the be-all and end-all where everything remains playable in one convenient location. It's a great idea, potentially not ambitious enough. It's only going to help developers who opt into their service. The most reliable way to save games through perfect conversion still appears to need those original developers who would then crack open their potentially decades-old source files and reprogram the whole thing. There are just so many barriers to that ever happening, but we've seen a few super ambitious developers do that very thing. Several have stripped their games down and remade them, like Gregory Weir redoing The Majesty of Color, or Pixel Jam stepping things up with a revamp and expansion through Dino Run DX. These games have an updated programming language and capabilities with little to no graphical additions. That's a lot of work with limited payoff. Taking things even more extreme. As many of you are aware, we've recently seen Puffballs United completely redo his Henry Stickmin series and make that available on Steam to massive success. That benefits from being one of the most well-known and well-loved Flash series of all time. That project was begun years ago as a passion project and was not something done in response to Flash ending. With no small degree of luck, I'm sure, it is unlikely that other Flash franchises would all find this same success, and spending years on that gamble remaking everything is a super high risk. While others may attempt it after Henry Stickmin's success, I doubt it'll become the norm. Many have taken to making official sequels, reboots, or re-envisionings of what were originally Flash series. I've covered loads of them in Flashlight, The Adventure Pals Infectinator, Zombotron, Fancy Pants Adventure, and many more. But adapting an IP, while super cool, is not quite the same. That doesn't protect those original installments. Instead, developers could use an app wrapper of sorts that bundles together those Swift files in a way that can be launched and executed on your computer independent of a Flash player. As far as I'm aware, the first attempt at something like that came with Ed McMillan's Basement Collection. Back in 2008, he stuck all his Flash games on physical CDs and sold them himself. Eventually, Tyler Glale used his magical programming know-how to create a digital version of that collection. This one is above and beyond with all sorts of new content, bonus features, commentary, and more, but it did show that something like that was possible. As a safer bet in terms of cost to reward, some developers have taken to using these app wrappers in the simplest possible way. Jonachrome packaged the Riddle School games so they're available to download for free on GameJolt. Or we have someone like Scriptwelder, bundling his trilogies of Don't Escape and Deep Sleep games on Steam in support of the release of Don't Escape 4. I've also seen compilations on Steam like Eggy's Game Collection or the Ninja Kiwi Archive. All of these really hang on developers still being in the industry, having source files, or caring enough to preserve their games. There are so many one-hit wonders out there that would simply be lost if conversion was our only hope. Luckily, the limitations of conversion can hopefully be overcome by option 2, emulation. Coming once again from Mike Welsh and Newgrounds, the very same pairing that brought us Swivel, which instills a lot of confidence, we have what will likely be our best hope for preserving the browser-based experience of Flash games. Hot on the heels of that July 2017 announcement, the team got cracking on what is now known as Ruffle. Ruffle is written in the Rust programming language and is again open source. Currently, this is operational on Newgrounds, being demoed on some old content and allowing creators to opt in to have it be tested on their new games. Newgrounds specifically will be swapping out their Flash embed code for Ruffle, meaning that Flash games on Newgrounds will work without the need for the user to do anything. This is really the ideal move forward. From a user experience, nothing would change. You wouldn't even notice. Open a link and play. As for security, the traditional Flash plugin created this closed loop that offered unique exploit opportunities. That's what everyone's been scared of. Ruffle would operate at a level that would come down to browser security, making it as reliable and safe as options like HTML5 and Unity. An amazing benefit from this new emulation strategy? Certain games will be playable on mobile devices for the very first time, as well as loads of previously Swift-only animations that either can't be or simply haven't been converted. Depending on how complex the animation is, some of them are just always going to be compressed through conversion. Emulation would come compression-free. The Ruffle assembly has the odd hiccup as it's not perfected yet. One of the reasons John uploaded Riddle School to GameJolt is that Ruffle has been known to cause a few issues in its current build. Some of the Riddle School series doesn't seem to be working flawlessly, but hopefully those bugs are getting ironed out as we speak. That's well and good for Newgrounds and the majority of users. I mean, most Flash content existed there anyways. But what about other active sites like Armor Games, or something like Congregate going into a legacy phase? How can we ensure that we can still visit and enjoy those sites? Or the hundreds of non-portal based sites that house all sorts of small Flash-based tools and applications. The plan is for Ruffle to be launched as a browser plugin as well. While you'll never need to worry about that on Newgrounds, the goal would be that through a simple plugin, you'd never even notice the loss of Flash. Things will simply work across the web. It may take a little while to get people to adopt that. It's hard to advertise something that large, but hopefully sites would include big banners at the top saying if you still want to play our games on this site, all you have to do is install this one plugin. If all goes well, you need not ever worry about your favorite Flash games disappearing or becoming difficult to track down. They're going to exist exactly where and how you remember, with little to no input needed from yourself. I've seen a lot of doom and gloom about the closing of Flash, and not a lot of people hyping up the very real possibility that Ruffle saves it all. Not just that, but soon you can open up games with simplistic controls and play them on your phone right through Ruffle for the very first time. Basically, if a game was mouse only that can be converted to gestures and tap type inputs, you can play it on your phone. That feature isn't available just yet, but expect to see that become quite prominent at the beginning of 2021. For a lot of people, that's going to be their first opportunity to experience so many of these games firsthand. The potential curation of a master list of mobile-friendly games opens up so many possibilities. So in a crazy way, not only could the Flash legacy be saved, it's potentially being improved. What a miracle that would be. Tom Fulp, the creator of Newgrounds, and thus one of the lead people advocating for preservation and working on Ruffle, has stated, "There's a lot of work to be done on the emulation front, and no guarantee it will ultimately emulate everything. It has to work its way through ActionScript 1 and 2 games before ultimately tackling AS3. Mike is super smart though, and other smart people are getting involved. Ruffle is looking like the best chance." And that quote is relatively old. It has come a long way since then. In its current state, there may be the odd game that still won't cooperate with this emulation. I'm sure they're working hard at that and making daily progress on increasing its efficiency and overall success rates. Yet we need to accept the possibility that the odd project may escape this solution. If that's the case, we cannot convert it or emulate it. We are left with one final Hail Mary that has become the Herculean task of a few very dedicated individuals. This will be option 3, collection. And no, I don't mean a converted collection like Henry Stickmin or the Don't Escape trilogy. This is an entirely separate effort. Something that can take place independent of those original developers. Removing that part of the equation leads to the potentially greatest rate of success. While I believe a few have attempted this, like Open Flash and Lightspark, by far the most successful and seemingly most worthy of support at this late game stage is going to be Blue Maxima's Flashpoint. This is a massive, ambitious project that has archived 59,000 games so far. They've also saved thousands of animations, but it's usually the games that people talk about with this one. Their specific goal here is to preserve as much Flash gaming culture as they personally can. This effort could act as a failsafe in case all other options fail or come up short. Flashpoint is another semi-open source software. You are presented with 2 different options. There is an ultimate version, a massive download that would bundle together every archived project in one location on your hard drive for you to play and enjoy at will, regardless of internet connectivity. Be aware that with 59,000 games and counting, this is currently half a terabyte. Or instead, you can download Flashpoint Infinity. It's only about 1 gigabyte, and works as a client through which you can seek out specific Flash games to download and enjoy. All of this for free, with either version. And I've had wonderful success with this in the past, and highly recommend checking it out. While working on Flashlight episodes of Crush the Castle and My Friend Pedro, I found that certain Flash games no longer run well in browser. I was instead able to play them with perfect, reliable frame rates as they were originally intended within Flashpoint Infinity. Circling way back, this is part of the reason why we're moving away from Flash collectively. As it becomes older and less compatible, the less likely games were to natively function anymore. It's already frustrating to encounter the odd game that doesn't run so well anymore. If Flash were left more or less in its current state, I imagine most things would be unplayable in 5 to 10 years regardless. Heck, we already have other phased out technologies like Shockwave that are also now integrated in Flashpoint's efforts. Flashpoint has been monumental and remained non-profit throughout, with the intention being to remain that way. They don't even accept donations out of respect for the hard work of the very developers who they are saving. They don't feel right getting paid if the developers aren't, or suddenly creating a paid version of games that have remained free all this time. How goddamn cool is that? This team clearly has a level of care and dedication that us Flash game fans could only dream of when the news of Flash's demise hit. While I would recommend becoming a supporter on Newgrounds, Flashpoint is the option where you can specifically contribute some time if you don't have the money. Go to their website, consult the massive games list, and also be sure to check their requests list. If you know a game worthy of preservation and collecting that is not currently on either list, be sure to check both. You can fill out a submission form to apply for its edition. They're doing their best to tackle them all. This awesome catalog can even group things together by creators and sponsors, genres, or similar themes. Some prominent Flash figures have even made playlists of games they simply recommend. Flashpoint allows you to find games with a level of ease you've maybe never experienced anywhere on the web. Flash games are notoriously dispersed, and I love the simplicity with which you can access them here. Ideally, these games will still be played in browser in their original sites. Newgrounds has advertisements and a rev share option. While I'm sure the developers care most about you still being able to play their games, if either Blue Maxima or Newgrounds' Emulation are available to you, I would slightly encourage doing it within Newgrounds or any other dedicated site to make sure developers are getting paid through ads or some form of support. The Flashpoint team has a great website full of documentation on their efforts and the unique challenges of that project. If this stuff interests you, it's well worth a look. So whether it be through conversion, emulation, or collection, your favorite Flash games and animations are likely to survive this transitional phase due to the valiant efforts of some very highly skilled individuals and teams. I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their support, but for this video specifically, rather than trying to rally new patrons, I would instead encourage you to go donate to Newgrounds' supporter page. Through Swivel and Ruffle, they have almost single-handedly guaranteed we don't lose out on any of Flash's incredible history. Maybe you chip in for a month or a year and use that as an excuse to visit Newgrounds more regularly. I would love if at least a few of you either discovered for the first time or rediscovered the beauty of that site and the wealth of fun that it has to offer. For months now, I've been getting comments on my Flashlight videos about how sad it is that Flash is going away. Then I played the Henry Stickmin collection on both channels, and there were hundreds of people mourning the loss of Flash. I came to realize how poorly known or understood some of these preservation efforts were. Now, instead of typing out responses to everyone who asks, I hope that I can simply direct them towards this video to help them see that not all hope is lost. In fact, the future of Flash creation is alive and bright, regardless of if we have the literal Flash player. If you similarly see anyone panicking over the death of Flash anywhere else, please direct them towards this video to relieve them of that stress. Don't share a link, instead direct them towards either the channel or video title. If anyone's unaware, YouTube has an auto filter for comments with links that are not made publicly visible. Any comments with links you've ever seen have likely been manually approved by the creator, which many of us don't have time to do on a regular basis, so sharing links is usually not ideal. I have an insanely large list of Flash games, creators, topics, and more that I plan to cover in this series. I'm so excited to know that I won't have to stop covering Flash games in the future, and am instead super excited to play a small role in that historic preservation, making sure people know the stories of these games and developers, as well as still having access to the games themselves. I thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.